Well, all right, we'll move on. First thing I want to talk about is probably something that we're dealing with a little bit today is the uh, the proxy situation that we sort of have because this is a voting committee, and you guys do assign members from your district board assigns members to this group. We're trying to get a little bit of structure in here as far as who represents. We don't want to have something happen where we have multiple members from the same board voting. Sometimes it's hard to keep track of on doing this remotely and not see any people in person. And for the most part, previously, you guys have a proxy um, format that you guys use for the association and the directors of the association, and that's worked for a couple of you guys that have sent that in. We want to have a little bit of structure, but we don't want it to be too stringent, and we want something set up in case of an emergency if somebody's not likely to step in. So what we're going to be talking and having on your asking to put on your agendas here in the next couple of months is for you to establish sort of a secondary and a tertiary role or two backups, so to speak, that can come to this committee and can vote as a representative of your district. That way, if something happens last minute, it's already established by board action that such and such is the next in line as a backup in that situation. I do appreciate those of you that know you're not going to be there, that send in the proxy letters that are signed off on. I just want to make sure that we're not in a situation where that's the policy for us. But if something happens last minute, you don't have a way to set that up. So what we're going to be asking is to have you guys put those on the board action, and I'll be sending out something to your ASs at your district level to get those put on your agendas to assign secondary and tertiary roles. Somebody that can back up your primary AgEP representative next year for the next coming fiscal year. Those decisions and those questions will be placed into your AgEP documentation. So when you have your meetings, say like in April, to start deciding on FY23, you'll see those sections in that document. So when you choose your primary, you can go ahead and work through and choose your secondary and your backups then, and then that'll be put into your AgEP document that's signed off on, making this sort of as seamless as possible. I know we've had health issues. I know we have these sort of things that creep up. We've got a couple of districts here that don't have representation today at all. So we want to make sure that each district is represented, and we kind of want to make that transition easy for you guys. And there's no reason for us to be really stringent on it, but we want to have a little bit of structure. So I will be sending these out to your ASs again to try to get that on your agendas to establish who those secondary and tertiary the two backups would be in that role for this committee. And then of course, like I said, in FY23, it's going to be part of your documentation so that you can make those decisions and have that planned out ahead of time. And then I will of course be able to know who your secondaries and your third backups are. And of course, if we need more after that, we'll figure that out when that comes. I don't think it's any sort of issue we're going to come up against. There's not going to ever be a situation where if you have a district representative here and you're the only one, but you're not one of those named people, that you're not going to get to vote for your district. That's never going to happen. But I'm just trying to get a little bit of format in and a little bit of structure built in, so that we can go as smoothly as possible. Does anybody have any questions about that before we move on?
Quick question, Russell. By the
Yes.
way, Bill was having a little trouble calling in, and I gave Bill Stewart, I gave him the call-in information. Uh,
Okay.
will the other individuals be included on emails then?
I would prefer
Like
that.
myself,
Yes. And
yeah,
one of the
like
things I'm going to, sorry, go ahead, Terry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
I say like myself, I didn't have the call-in number this morning.
Yeah, and
So,
where we're encouraging all of the district participation as far as, hey, this isn't some secret club. Although we want to get like who's voting sort of established. That way we can do that for roll call and we can make sure that we're not missing somebody. But I'm going to highly encourage the ASs when we send out those invitations to go ahead and disseminate those invitations and this call in to every member of your board. There's no reason to have any of these meetings be secret or just be for one person only. The information of being able to call into the primary sources is important. You play the game as a school child where I tell you a sentence and you tell the next person. You're bound to lose some of your primary points. So yes, that with those names they will be put on that list. And like I said, my real goal is to get each district involved so that every time I send out those invitations to the AS staff, they can immediately start sending those out to all the supervisors in their district. There's no reason to keep it a secret.
I agree with you totally, Russell. I mean, I'm shocked and kind of saddened by the fact that we've got districts that are not represented here at a state level meeting. We definitely need to have everybody at the table when we're talking about things.
Yeah, and I'm hoping, like I said, getting those more people into those roles as secondaries and tertiary backups. This will be a way to get them more involved. And like I said, getting the call-in information just in the hands of every supervisor, whether they're a voting member or not, they can listen in and understand. And that's why we're recording these meetings. We've recorded the past presentations. Those will be put up and made available to all the members of your board. If somebody wasn't able to attend and does have an interest in what we're doing. There's there's no secrets here, and the more people that understand our process, usually the better things will go.
This is Oscar Harris
Yeah.
from the Western District.
Hey, Oscar.
Got in late.
It's okay, Oscar. Glad to have you, buddy.
This is Bill Stewart from Guyane. Finally got in.
Good morning, Bill.
Good morning to you.
We haven't went over too
Expanding
much.
Mailing list will help for sure.
Yes, yeah. It's just getting used to that. I mean, I've expanded the list. I think there's about 90 people on it at this point, so adding a few more is never going to hurt anything.
I'll be muting my phone.
Thank you, Bill. So if there's no other questions about that, and if you do have questions afterward, just feel free to get a hold of me. But my goal is to get that on your agenda in December, January, if you haven't had your meeting yet, and get those established and sent back to me, and then we'll get it a little more structured with the documentation in FY23.
Russell, is the standard protocol here that throughout the districts that the chairman is the representative for voting, or do we not have a standard? It's just whoever wants to be there or whatever. I'm not sure.
Each district should have an appointed member to the committee. I mean, if you're used to how the association works, where you appoint a director and that's your representative to the association, and then that person has the voting rights to represent you at the association level, it sort of works in a similar fashion with this committee. You would appoint an AgEP person to this committee. You appoint a supervisor from your district to this committee, and then that person is in charge of voting for your district. So I know, like in a situation where you have subcommittees within a district, that the chairman is allowed to sit on every one of those committees. In this situation, the chairman can, if that's the appointed person to be the representative, of course they can vote. But the way this works is you're appointed as the representative, you're the voting member. And then if you can't come, your secondary appointed person, your third appointed person, those are the voting members. It doesn't matter if you're the secretary or just a member or the president. It's however your district wants their representative to this committee to be.
Right. Okay. And I believe I heard you state earlier that even if none of those people listed show up and someone as a representative of that district shows up on the call or whatever, that they will be allowed to vote.
Oh yeah, there's no way that I'm not gonna let a district that's here not get a voice. That would be, I'm just trying to like establish a little bit of more structure to how we do things to let it run a little smoother. We've had every meeting we have some health issues. We have some people that aren't able to attend. So I'm trying to get a little bit of structure, a little bit of ownership in those districts, maybe to have those secondary and third people kind of take a more of an interest in AgEP and follow it if they're going to be a little responsible. But if none of those people come and anybody from your district comes and that's the person that's there, they're going to get the vote. I'm not gonna disallow that. I don't think anybody would. One, I think you guys would hang me if I tried to do that. If I tried to pull something like that. And two, it just doesn't make sense. Every district gets a voice at this group. So
No, I'm 100% agreed, and personal responsibility, ownership, whatever you want to call it, that falls to the appointed representative, and if they can't make it, um, they can let someone within the district know and have a representative show up. So
exactly.
that's
I mean, we've got
that's a
that
good thing
today.
for policy.
So I'm just trying to really kind of get it on paper and get everybody on board with the same idea. That way, if we have some districts today, we have a district that may not have somebody. Maybe nobody in that district knew that person couldn't be there, and somebody could have called in and had a voice. So we're just trying to establish that moving forward.
Yep, good deal. Thank you.
If there's nothing else on that, we'll go ahead and move on to the subcommittee formation. One of the things that we had asked you guys to start working on back in August, this process started about reinvigorating or early creation of the AgEP exigency program, and needing to sort of brainstorm and get ideas put out there for us to start establishing practices within that program. And the timeline falls not similar. The timeline falls exactly the same as it does regular ag enhancement, because AgEP exigency program is built into the AgEP documentation. So the timelines have to be the same for that practice. And that's what we started working on back in August, was brainstorming these ideas. And of course, in October, State Conservation Committee accepted that program as a whole. And what we started working on was, okay, we have a program, we have the skeleton of how we can do things. Now we need practices, because emergencies aren't planned. So we need to sort of future proof this thing and think of ideas and start putting things in place in case something happens. And then we already have a tool in our toolkit maybe to address that situation. And that's what you guys were tasked with getting and putting together at each of your districts. And you submitted those in mid-November, and submitted all that documentation. I really want to thank everybody that took the time to, even if you didn't submit something, even if you put some time, just thought into it and realized, well, that's something already put in. I want to thank everybody for putting the work in. I think we ended up with 17 submissions, and a lot of those, there's a lot of overlap in there, but we have things that we can work on now. And I want to thank especially the districts that did meet and did submit things, and put forth that effort to get ideas rolling out there for us. It really makes we're starting something from the ground up, and it's really nice to have some things to work on that we can hopefully develop and work through this winter into this spring, and have programs that are available in some tools in our emergency tool belt, so to speak, starting in FY23. One of the things that was part of this exigency, this whole sort of revamping how we approach new practice ideas, practice submissions, was the big subcommittee stuff, right? We started working on subcommittee stuff last year. And we all really thought it was a good idea to get together and form a subcommittee to look at all of these exigency practice submissions and work through that process. So what we're going to do today, and the subcommittee will be a group of supervisors, and I'm looking for 5 districts to kind of step up and say, I'd like to form or work on that subcommittee. And from those 5 districts, you'll meet with, amongst yourselves, being supported by conservation services staff. We've got Um, I think we've got some members of conservation services that have volunteered to kind of help facilitate these meetings and put them together. And we're also going to have other conservation services staff supporting these meetings. Some of them are going to be new just to get them sort of used to meet you guys, other supervisors from other districts, and basically to be in the wings, listening, learning, and providing any kind of technical assistance that they might have. But the true bare bones of the committee action is going to come uh, from you guys, the supervisors, and you will develop these exigency programs as you see fit, based on some of the guidance that we're going to have to assist you on what you need to do. And then you'll bring that back, just like we did last year with the allocation subcommittee. You'll kind of bring those back to the group as a whole in March, and present the ideas, and then we'll all openly discuss it here amongst ourselves in March to figure out what we're sending on to State Conservation Committee to actually be approved and be a part of our programs. Because of the number of exigency practices that were submitted and overlap, we've kind of figured out that we only need one committee, and we don't have enough submissions for new AgEP practices to have its own subcommittee. So the committee is going to be all in one. We're going to have one committee that has AgEP, the practice that we got submitted. It's going to look at that AgEP practice along with the exigency. So on your agenda, there are two subcommittees formed. But in reality, we are going to combine that and just have one subcommittee instead of asking a pile of supervisors to review a single entry for regular AgEP practices. It just makes sense for that committee to just work through that as well, because it's not a difficult one at that. So what we would like to have now is, if you would like to serve, and like I said, I'd like to keep it at 5. I know we might have a whole lot of people interested. We might have 14 people want to be, but it defeats the work of a subcommittee. So I will tell you, on a subcommittee, you are going to meet several times between now and February. We're going to try to have this done by February, I think, is when our timeline comes. So you'll meet several times. You will be doing a little bit of work with that and hashing through that. But if you would like to serve on that, please state your name, state your conservation district, so that we can get those jotted down and get that formed. So I will take volunteers now.
Russell Clyde has asked me to put his name forward.
Okay.
Capital District.
Russell, this is Sam Sheets. I will gladly serve on it if so appointed by you. And I'm going to be leaving your meeting now. Okay.
Sam, you be careful, and hope everything goes good, buddy.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Russell, this is Bill Gallner. I'll serve on that committee if elected.
Okay. Thank you.
Russell, this is Dennis. I'll glad to help out.
Thank you, Dennis.
Who was that last one?
That was Dennis, Southern Conservation District.
This is Chuck Sanofsky, Mon District. I'd be pleased to be on that.
Okay, Chuck, thank you very much. That puts us at 5. So I think what we'll do is we'll work with those representative of those 5 districts, which would have been Capital District, Upper Ohio, Little Canal, Southern, and Mon, that want to look, and you guys will be looking at these exigency practices, and then you will have guidance from us, of course, about what that means and what we would like for you guys to work on, and kind of what we need the end product to look like, as well as one of the singular AgEP practices. And of course, you'll be supported by Conservation Services staff. I've already kind of explained that a little bit. I mean, you'll have a primary contact person for that subcommittee that'll be working directly with you guys and help facilitate creation of meetings and helping get things on paper and really working to help you guys develop what you would like to see. So I think, go ahead.
Russell, this is Dennis. I'll say this: if there, I served on the last committee, and if there's another district that would like a shot or wants a turn, I'd be willing to step aside and let them have a turn. But if there's no one else that wants to, like I said, I'd be more than happy to help out.
Well, I'll put that out there. If Dennis wants to step aside or wants to say, hey, let somebody have a chance, is there another district? It's a kind of like a all through and all done here. Is there another district that that wasn't able maybe to speak up in time or would like to serve on that and would like to have a swing at that?
This is Bill Stewart from Guyana. I have an individual that I'll submit the name and would love to serve on it. He would love to serve on it.
Okay. Dennis, is that good with you? I think.
I'm okay with that. Like I said, if someone else wants a chance, most of us there that volunteered were the same ones on the committee last time, and I don't want any of the other districts to feel like they didn't get a shot or didn't get to speak up. I'm more than happy to help out and serve, and if you need me to do so, I will. But if someone else wants that chance, I'd also be happy to have them get their shot.
Thank you, Dennis. I think so. We'll go ahead and move on that, and for Guyan, Bill, if you can get me that gentleman's or gentlewoman contact information and name so that we can get that in the hands of the member that's going to be running that, and we'll make sure.
Jason Ekers, Ekers.
Okay.
He's a farmer, got high titles, a young, aggressive supervisor.
Okay. We'll get that put together, and we'll get that contact and get that group formed. And again, like I said, we've got so that puts it that at Capital, Little Canal, Upper Ohio, Guyan, and Mon conservation districts, and you guys will be working through those processes. It is going to be new for all of us, so we're creating this as we go. So please have your patience with us as we work through it. But hopefully, in the end, I think we'll have a good product for you guys to look at in March. So thank you guys for that. Thank you for stepping up and volunteering. I really appreciate that. I think it's going to make for a much smoother creation and brainstorming session with everybody involved.
Russell, can you send us a list of those names that's on that committee?
I sure will. I sure will. So like I said, we're just combining those two subcommittees. There's only going to be one subcommittee look at new practices, and they'll have those created and they'll send those to review to Conservation Services probably, I think, in February. I'm trying to find my notes. I know it's in around February, and happily have that fleshed out to bring back and present to you guys here in March for the whole group. We're working right now with forestry and the Farm Service Agency. We already have those in hands of some of those individuals, going through those practice submissions to ensure that anywhere that we have any kind of overlap or any kind of repetition in programs based on what the federal programs offer or other agencies. So once that gets done with review, that committee will take it up from there, and you should be contacted. You'll be contacted shortly, those of you that are on the committee, about when your first meeting will be to start working on this. Moving on to the documentation change submission, due date of January 31st every year that we've been here. When you guys get AgEP applications, they go through a ranking process. and every year we take submissions from supervisors to review any kind of changes or questions, spelling mistakes, anything like that that you find in the ranking questions or any of the documentation really that we use at a state level when reviewing these AgEP applications, point values, all of those things. Anything that you think needs to be examined or needs to be looked at, or suggestions for changes in that documentation, those changes are those change submissions would be due January 31st. It may just be an email where you say, "Hey, on the the hay reseeding ranking form, question number 7, you spelled this wrong," or "I think that's I don't like that question. I don't think it should be in there." This is we've gotten better every year. I know most of you guys that have served for quite a few years with us. These meetings, when we did those change reviews, used to last for 6 hours. And I think as of late, we've narrowed and thinned and fixed a lot of mistakes, and those meetings don't take nearly as long, which is great for all of us. It means we're finally nailing down our product better. So, if you have changes or any ideas that you want to see changed in those forms, any of that is due, and you can send that to your conservation services, your conservation specialist at your district, or you can send them directly to me. Either way, I would ask that if you need copies of the ranking criteria forms that are offered in your district or future programs or any of them, any program that you want to look at the ranking forms on, ask your conservation specialist in your district. Or whoever's covering your district to get you copies of those forms so that you guys can examine those. There's I would just send them all out, but there are quite a few, and there's a lot that nobody uses anymore. So I would narrow down and look at the ones very specific to your district that you're interested in, and get copies of those ranking forms or anything like that. Get them from your local conservation specialist, and have a meeting, sit down, review those if you want to review those as a group or individually. But get copies of that from them, and those change submissions will be due on the 31st of January. That way, once you guys submit those changes, those ideas on the 31st, we bring those back to Conservation Services. All the conspecs, management, we all get together. We go through each of those submission ideas, and look at the merit of those, make recommendations on those changes, and we bring those back to you guys in March for final approval, or acceptance or denial of the changes, however you guys see fit as the 14 members of the group.
Hey, Russell, if I could just add one thing.
Yes.
As he mentioned, if there's comments or suggestions for specific questions, please send those on. If your suggestion happens to be, I don't like question number 7, it's not a good fit or something, I'd encourage you to also submit an alternative. So instead of just taking it out, what would you like to see that question replaced with, or even if it's a tweak to the existing wording. In some cases on those ranking forms, we really need enough questions and points to give enough separation to applications. So we don't want to get in the situation where we're just deleting some questions without some to add back. And that's all I had. Thank you.
Yeah, very good point. Thank you, Jennifer. Yeah, that we got to have enough questions. We got to have enough points, so the rankings don't matter. If everybody has 100, it's hard to separate. So yeah,
So
if you are
don't
deleting,
just
make
find
sure
a
you replace
problem,
it.
find a solution, right?
Exactly. Because if you don't suggest a solution, then it's probably not going to go very far. So yes, thank you for that. A good clarification. Does anybody have any additional questions or comments about the ranking form change submissions? Okay, the last thing I want to touch on is just sort of a reminder where we are in the process of things. I've mentioned it a couple times about different meeting dates, but very specifically, this is our December meeting. We formed our subcommittees that are going to look at new practice submissions and new proposals. Again, January 31st is the deadline to submit program comments and changes to the ranking criteria. In February, those comments and those change submissions are going to be reviewed by the Conservation Services staff and management. In March, that's when we will all meet again as a group, a 14-member group in March. The State AgEP Committee will finalize our proposal for the FY23 program. So any of the new exigency practices will be voted on. Any new AgEP practices will be voted on, and any new changes or modifications to program documentation, such as ranking forms, will be voted on. So we have no voting today. We have no voting, I think, at the last meeting, but March is I mean, every meeting's important. Please don't just not come to any meetings, but please ensure that that somebody from your district is present and is up to date on what the district wants to do in March, because that's the last date to really put forth your opinion and put forth your district's opinion. You will be voting on some programs and some practices this year. From those votes, we will send that on based on what this group wants. We send that on to the program subcommittee or state conservation committee. They will review that. Based on their review, they would then hopefully submit that to the state conservation committee in April at their April meeting, and they will vote to either accept the changes in the programs that we've put forth to them or reject those. I guess they could always send them back for review, but I don't think I've seen that happen yet. So the State Conservation Committee has final say in anything that we put forth. Anything that we're doing has to be approved by them. So after April, hopefully everything gets approved, and then that will be available for our FY23 program year. And then usually about in April, when that comes through, you guys start working in your individual districts and start developing what you're going to do in FY23. Again, looking forward into that. We're already thinking about finalizing at that point. You know, May, June, July, we're wrapping up FY22. Does anybody have questions about the timeline? And this timeline is also in your signed AgEP document. It's in the back on the last page, the document that you guys fill out every April. That's sort of the contract between yourself and the agency to run the program. You list all the things that you're going to do, all your practices. Again, exigency will be in there this year for you guys to pick all of your exigency practices, all of that. So that timeline is in the back of that document. If you need to review that at any point in time, you can get a copy from any of the agency staff that work in your district. They should be able to locate that document and get you a copy of that.
Russell, this is Oscar Harris, Western District. I got on this call a little bit late, and you mentioned something about an agenda item that we all should have on our agenda. What was that?
So yes, Oscar, that was the first thing. What we're going to try to get put together, that I'll be talking or sending out something to the AS staff to put on your next month's agenda or the next closest agenda. I'd like to establish. You guys already have a voted established primary representative to the AgEP committee, this group. You already have, which would probably be yourself, Oscar.
Yes.
What we'd like to do is have the districts, instead of going through sort of the proxy process that we use, that you guys use for the association, we'd like to go ahead and establish a secondary and a third person in line or multiple backups, so to speak, for this committee. That way, if something happened this morning, Oscar, and you weren't able to come, and we're in a situation like in March where we'd like to have a vote from your district, we like to just already have those people established. That way you could just call them up and say, hey, I can't come. You need to go to that meeting and vote the way that our group talked about previously, or that sort of thing. So, and then in your AgEP documentation next year, that's usually when districts appoint their representative, like yourself. There's going to be a section in there to appoint a secondary or a third person as well. That way, at FY23, we've already got that established. Just getting this set up so that there's more people sort of involved in the process, and if something does happen, your district easily has a representative already established that can step right in.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Russell, this is Rick Abel. I'm going to sign off if there's nothing else that's substantial to cover.
No, unless anybody has any questions, this is all that I really needed to cover. Most of your work is going to be handled. Thank your subcommittee people, because they're the ones that are going to be putting in more of the work in between now and next meeting. But Rick, I have nothing else that I need to cover except answering questions. Does anybody have anything else they'd like to discuss or have a question about what we've talked about today? Okay. If not, obviously you guys can always contact me if you have any additional questions that you didn't think of while we were on here. We'll make the recording available for anybody that wants to listen to that wasn't able to make the meeting. In between now and then, those of you that were chosen or did volunteer for the subcommittee, there will be somebody in contact with you shortly to start establishing those meeting dates and times and start working through that process of those new practices. Otherwise, I hope everybody has. If I don't talk to you guys again for a while, I hope everybody has a good holiday season, and hopefully we don't get too much more rain that's going to weigh us down. I know we got about a couple inches here coming next week, so we can't sell mud. Hopefully we don't get stuck in it. If you guys have any further questions, just get a hold of me. But that's all that I had for today. Thank you very much, and you guys have a good rest of your day.